Hello, friends. Welcome to Squared Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie, and today I'll be creating a summer bucket list. Such a fun way to add a bit of DIY seasonal decor to our planners. So let's get to it. And I've got this new lavender punch ready to go, along with a metal ruler, some clear sticker paper, this cardstock pad, and these two Planny Things sticker books, which I'll pull from. Okay, guys, so I have this freebie printable ready for you guys in the video description if you want to do this as well in your own planners. And the first page is this summer fun printable. I'm going to go ahead and just cut it really close to the edges of the words so that when I put it in, it will be nice and clean. And I just printed it on that vinyl sticker paper I showed earlier, which will also be linked down below for your reference. I also printed out the second or third page, so I think I printed out the second page, on the back of a piece of cardstock. I grabbed a 12 by 12 sheet from that paper pad I showed earlier and then printed on the back, since it was just a one-sided piece of cardstock, the printable. I did cut it down to letter size before I printed on it, but a pretty simple way to get the print out directly on the cardstock backer. And now I am cutting it down. I first identified the middle where the spine is going to be, and then I kind of measured out from there 8 inches all around the page so that I could get a good idea of the amount of space I have to work with on the front. I found that last time I made this that it made the wreath shape a little bit wonky because I didn't do this step before and didn't quite figure out how much circular space I would need for the wreath. So this time around, I went ahead and measured and trimmed down the page beforehand just so I could have a nice even square. Although I will say that this square is actually 8.5 by 8.5, since I only cut the top and bottom and I gave myself a little bit more wiggle room. You'll understand what I mean when I get to the cutting part of the wreath. So I also cut the seam down the middle ahead of time as well, just to make sure everything was actually centered. That was a mistake I did previously as well. I ended up cutting it off a little bit off center. So prepping the front of it by preparing the cuts and everything ahead of time, I think was the best move. And you just saw me put down some wax paper and then take it off. I was going to use the wax paper like I tend to do in order to set up this wreath that I'm going to do with the stickers. However, I just decided to wing it and put the sticker straight on the cardstock and figure it out. That actually worked out well because these stickers were easy to move. But if you are using stickers that might not be as repositionable, you might want to think about using the wax paper just to get an idea of the shape of your circular wreath if you're doing the same thing before you actually commit, because I did have to make quite a few adjustments to really round out the wreath as I was building it, which you're going to see. I am pulling from a couple of sticker books I've had for quite a while. They are from Planny Thing, and if they're in her shop, I'll keep the links down below. Sometimes she restocks, so I'll just put whatever I have available as far as links for the items I'm using. And these two sticker books, I decided as I was flipping through and figuring out what I was going to use, decided to go with a gradient theme of summer items as my wreath. I originally was thinking maybe I would use some tropical leaves and stuff, but I just like the idea of having a very summer focused kind of iconic shape wreath with summer items just to get me in the summertime mood. Not that I really need that much help, since where I live now is just so hot. It's so hot. I'm in the desert now. But anyway, so I'm just really trying to pull items that signify summer from these two books in a colorway that just kind of gradiates around the wreath. I went with this idea because I had one set of stickers already that was, I would say, color coded in a way that there were definite groups of like orange and red and blue originally. And I remember doing a spread with those in a previous time, and I had some extra that I thought would be really nice to use here and get this gradient idea going. But because of that, I didn't have a ton of stickers, and I am going to have to search and find things to work with the colors I've decided to pull out for this wreath. So I am adding in a bit of pink. That one is a color that I didn't have any kind of clustering of pink stickers ready to go from the sticker book, so there's going to be a lot of hunting and searching for those stickers in particular. Also bringing in some of this brown and pulling in more from other areas of these sticker books. And you can see the shape is starting to form, but I got to a point where I felt like the left side was really coming together a lot better than the right side, even though the right side's pretty much done. You can kind of see it has a bit of a sharpness to the angles of the circle along the corner areas. That's where I end up going back and trying to adjust a few of them to make it a little smoother and a little more round. And unfortunately, this sticker book, well, both of these actually are kind of falling apart. I don't know if it was just the climate that they were kept in, or if they were just being bent in a certain way for too long. But yeah, so a lot of these sticker pages are being pulled out and used willy-nilly. And just trying to pull together some of these stickers again, making the shape as round as possible. Smooth. I'm also thickening up the areas a little bit more, some making them 2 layers worth of stickers versus just one to try to beef up the circle a little bit. Trying to give you guys an idea of what I have in mind as I'm, fiddling with these things, so you know why I'm doing the adjusting that I am. Definitely want it to be a little bit thicker and a little bit rounder, so trying to make that happen with these stickers. A lot of movement happening too. I did cut a couple of the suited kind of clothing sets apart. I felt like those worked a little bit better separate and gave me a little more freedom to maneuver them how I wanted. It's not a true gradient in a sense that it doesn't really gradiate gradually to one color or another. It's more of like clusters in almost a transitional order. Trying to think of a good way to explain that. So not a true gradient, but you kind of get the idea of what I mean by a gradient with the transition of the color around the circle. And we're getting closer. I do feel like this corner needs a little bit more work, so we're going to try to fiddle around over here and smooth things out. Sometimes it's kind of hard to identify too how to fix those sharper angles, especially when you're using all different shapes and sizes of items. Yeah, just bear with me as I work through this little complication here. Just adjusting a few items. Trying to get everything to fit. That is looking better though, for sure. rounding out this bottom corner a little bit as well. And then I saw this red canoe, which was like the only red thing in this set of stickers. So I'm going to bring that in and move the big pink floaty down to the bottom. Fill a little bit more of that space. Need a few more items, maybe in pink and in brown, just to even things out. Just looking as things come up and I see a place for them, I am sneaking them in. We're getting close. These were really fun sticker books, lots of iconic stickers to use to make, very thematic spreads if you are into that. And maybe one or two more. That should do it, I think. Sometimes I will play and fiddle for forever. I have to call it sometimes before I just keep going and adjusting forever. So now we're going to lay in the printable that I gave away for free. So again, you can get that down in the description below. And I just need to figure out a good placement for it. I'm trying to make sure that the words aren't going to get caught up in the hole punching. So I'm just trying to make the positioning look good. And I think centered but a little bit higher than I was originally going to do is going to be the best. We'll just let that tail hang to the other side. And then we're going to have the same issue with this word summer. I don't want it to be too close to the spine and get punched. So I ended up actually overlapping some of the stickers, which wasn't ideal, but worked out in the end. I also adjusted the little tally there at the end of the N and shortened it so that it all remained contained within the wreath shape. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and punch this, and I thrifted this lavender punch just recently, got it for like $5. So even though I know that the punches are a little bit more short than the Happy Planner punch, the quality of this punch is definitely a ton better than the Happy Planner punch. So I'm just happy to have it in my stash. And I think that the shorter punches isn't really a big deal for this application. It's going in the center of another spread anyway. So having a little less pull out, I guess, of the printable isn't going to hurt anything. And I just basically centered up the wreath shape to a center hole punch on that lavender, since it's made for letter size pages or smaller, which this is going to be almost like a classic size page. So I just used the center point of the wreath shape as my guide and centered up the center hole with that, and that worked out really well. And as you can see, I just fussy cut all the edges to really make it a little extra fun. Really love how this turned out. So now we're onto the back. I have it already pre-printed, and now that it's punched, you can kind of see what I meant about the spine and just keeping everything kind of centered so we don't have any push out into the words. There are two that are included with the freebie down below. One actually has a light gray circle around, so you can really get an idea of the 8-inch circle that I'm using as my guide for this wreath. And then I have one without. I tend to like to print the one without because then you don't have to worry about trying to cover the line if it ends up falling within your boundary, which this definitely would have. You would have seen the gray circle on the edges. So I have one without, but just in case you need a visual of how to design your wreath front. That is why I included the one with the circle, but I would suggest putting the one without. And I like to add a little bit more decor to the back of this printable. Each of the 6 categories that I'm using for this seasonal bucket list have, items that I want to call out through the stickers if I can find something that matches up. So for the top one, I have an Explore main title, and so I brought in a map and a little road sign. And then I thought I would even bring in this van, since a couple of the items in the Explore section are related to traveling, taking a road trip, and going somewhere new. Below that, I have Create, and there's a few on there about completing a photo challenge and making a summer treat. So just looking for some stickers that might tie in with that. There's also Build a Sandcastle, but I looked for it and I couldn't find a sticker for that, although I wish I had one because that would have been really cute. Below that, we have Savor, and under there, there's some things about dining outside and eating special treats. So I tried to find stickers that would relate to those. On the top right, we have Get Active. So there, I was hoping to find something a little more specific to match up with going fishing or outdoor sports or swimming. And I ended up finding a couple of things, but wasn't really able to find the exact stickers that I wanted at the time. I also found for the Enjoy down below that, there's Try a New Fruit, which I thought was a fun one. I just kind of came up with that one on my own. Of course, I couldn't find any exotic fruits in my stash of stickers, but I thought watermelon might work. It might be exotic to somebody. So I brought that in. And then there are going to the movies and watching fireworks, which I was hoping to find at least a fireworks sticker, but I may have to go into another sticker stash for that. And then below that, the final category is Relax. I thought, things about soaking up the sun and relaxing, reading would be cute. And I tried to find whatever I could in those stickers, like I mentioned. So again, just trying to find things that pertain to those categories, add a little extra decor, make it cute. And here you can see I did find my PET tape with fireworks that I'm going to bring in to add a little bit more to that Enjoy category. I'm just going to cut it down and stick it there, fill up a gap. Just trying to make sure nothing's hanging out. I was going to try to add this piece I needed to cut off back in, but it just didn't look right. So we will add in the watermelon and just kind of cut it down so it looks like a smaller slice. And I think we might be close to being done. I'll probably do a little bit of rearranging here, but once I'm done with that, you guys, we will be done, friends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also, too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch, and think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Bye!